You're watching Force 13's live streaming service. Hello and welcome back. This is Force 13 Live, entering what I believe is our 6th hour of coverage here. Hello, my name is Nathan Foy. You can see me here, camera 1, camera 2 over there somewhere. And all of you out there as well wanting to know the latest on Cyclone Debbie, which of course we will oblige, because that is the most important thing. Not myself, not the Skype team, even though they are here. We're only the servants who are delivering the information to you during this important time for Queensland. I'm joined by Craig, David and Orlando for this hour. Hello Craig and David, and let me talk to Orlando just for a moment and introduce you there. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good.
And you've been tracking Debbie with us. Well, not with us, but you are now. But what do you think of the storm?
Well, I think right now it's about to, I think it may make landfall in the next couple of hours. It surely looks like the eye is closing in. I'm not sure if that's confirmed, but I'm looking at satellite imagery and that's what it seems like it's doing. And for the Australian coastal towns, I think this is quite a dangerous storm.
Certainly. If you saw the beginning of the stream there, the beginning of the hour just now, we've put the storm down to Category 2, 110 miles per hour sustained. That is the latest from our SATOPS, suggesting that the storm has weakened slightly. But that doesn't really mean much, because it's going to be packing a big storm surge with it at high tide, which is coming up in just a matter of hours. And strong winds already reported with gusts of 140 miles per hour, 140 miles per hour gusts reported on Hamilton Island, with sustained winds of 100 miles per hour reported on Hamilton Island so far. That's the highest wind speed sustained that we've had from a land-based observation station. And of course, don't forget, we use our SATOPS when there are no land observations available. So SATOPS is going to become a little bit less use for us when the storm actually makes landfall, because then we'll have land observations in the eye of the storm, which will be able to tell us what the pressure is, what wind speeds are around it, and the like. David, do you have any news for us? Well, I'm guessing you've got the top of the hour update from the Bureau of Meteorology.
Before I read it out, I got to put a spanner in the works. You're downgrading it, but the Queensland Premier is saying it could go Cat 5.
Well, we put it that way, but I'm not sure. It's Category 4 right now still on the Bureau of Meteorology scale. There's not much apart from the land interaction. There's nothing else stopping it from re-intensifying. It could yet happen. I don't think it will happen. But they're right in saying that it could happen, and they're right to be vigilant for that possibility, because the one time, it's unlikely, but the one time that it does happen is the one time that people are not prepared for it.
Well, I don't have any issue with the Queensland government bringing out information which keeps people informed, indicates to be vigilant. But I'm just thinking, we know that the Queensland government would, well, all governments over here would be in constant touch with the Bureau of Meteorology. So I'm just wondering what information is being provided to the government indicating a Cat 5. But leaving that aside, the latest from the Tropical Cyclone Warning Centre, basically the information hasn't changed,
Yeah.
Nathan, because they're doing hourly updates, and unfortunately I do not support hourly updates.
Really? Why not?
Well, what's
The National Hurricane
Right.
Centre do it, but they describe them as position updates only. They don't really change it. Well, they did change, I think, things during Matthew, but they the biggest thing that they do in the hourly updates is just the position. They change the information every 3 hours or so, and I'm guessing the Bureau of Meteorology are going to come up with something in the next hour when we get to midnight UTC.
So, recapping, Debbie remains Cat 4 system, sustained winds in the centre, 175 kilometres per hour, gusting to 250 per hour. Location, as we know, 30 kilometres, 19.9 degrees south, 149 degrees east, estimated to be 85 kilometres east-north-east of Bowen, 60 kilometres north of Hamilton Island, and the movement is west-southwest at 6 kilometres an hour. Now,
6 kilometres an hour.
Kilometres an hour.
Are you sure it is? Well, we were talking knots earlier. I just want to confirm that's kilometres per hour.
Yep.
So that's pretty slow.
So what I'm going to put forward is she slowing? Is she near?
Well, the Bureau of Meteorology thinks she is.
Will I be right to say stalling?
It depends how one defines stalling, but I would say it has stalled, and whether it's stalling right now, maybe. It's difficult. Let's take a look at blow up that latest imagery there. It's moving slowly. It's still moving, and it still looks like it's west-southwest from this imagery, and it's getting really close to the mainland of Australia there. The Whitsunday Islands aren't marked in the pink outline on this graphic, but the mainland coast there is. Airlie Beach extremely close to at least the edge of the storm, 5 miles or so.
But what concerns...
And the you know, the little numbers, they don't really mean much when we're talking about distances from land. We know that the storm is going to provide a big impact for a wide area here. It's almost irrelevant, but just for the latest information, just to be as accurate as possible, we tell you the latest every hour of where it is, what position it is in relation to other locations, and to the best of our ability.
So the position of Debbie really hasn't changed over the last... how many hours?
Well, it's changing, but it's changing very, very slowly. And it's still moving, by the looks of things, west-southwest. Overall.
Now we'll have a look at some observations. Mackay got down to 972, 96
really? So
gusting,
that's a new
100.
one.
Sorry, correction, Hamilton Island.
Yeah, Hamilton Island, new pressure there, 972. That's a new low.
Yep,
And
96.
Hold on a minute. They're getting... Is that 95? Yes, 96 knots wind speed. So that's 110 miles per hour sustained winds being reported on Hamilton Island.
So it's like approaching minimal category 3 status, right?
Well, it's been a Category 3, but it looks like Hamilton Island is right in the middle of the worst part of the storm right now, David.
Okay,
Don't
8:48.
forget the worst part of the storm is not in the eye.
True. So Hamilton Island is in the eye, which is clearly
Well, it can't be in
visible.
the eye if it's getting winds like that. It's calm in the eye.
No, sorry. The system is to the north of Hamilton Island, correct?
We believe so, northwest of it now. Well, by some... Well, yeah, but I guess if those... the two possibilities from these observations, David. Number one, the storm is a lot stronger than we think it is, and it's to the northwest by some distance. Or two, the numbers that I've been giving out that we can't believe have been correct.
Well, we look at 8:48.
And that the
Which,
storm is
was
actually only 5 miles away from Early Beach. That would make sense for the storm to be in that location to have those wind speeds. But if the storm is where we think it is based off what we're seeing off radar and satellite, then there's much worse between Hamilton Island and the centre of the storm, and in fact the storm must therefore be much stronger than 110 miles per hour. I think David ran away. Craig?
Sorry, I apologise. I'm just distracted here in the background.
Yes. Craig, you still with us? It's getting a little bit late over there. Don't know where Craig's gone. But there again, there's the radar. And, you know, the radar does not suggest that Hamilton Island is in the part right next to the eye, which theoretically should be the worst part of the storm. But maybe it's just an unorthodox storm where the worst part of it is displaced quite some way from the centre now in its old eye wall, so to speak. It's a weird one.
So I'll be right. We would be right. Looking at the radar, Hayman Island would be inside the eye with Hideaway Bay.
Yep.
And the eye approaching a
Hideaway
Bowen.
Bay, not yet. Hideaway Bay, no. But that's where the storm might land pretty soon.
And the Joint Typhoon Warning Centre saying a 10 nautical mile radius eye. And where's Mackay? Hamilton Island would be on the outer of the eye.
Yeah. Question here. Radar shows Whitsunday Island in the eye but reports extreme winds. How? Well, just the technicality there. Whitsunday Island is not Hamilton Island. Whitsunday Island is the one north of Hamilton Island, and that one is south of Hook Island, which is the first island that's in the eye, just off Hayman Island, which is also in the eye. So Whitsunday Island is in the eye wall just about to receive the eye. Hamilton Island is further south of that.
And there's the 512 loop.
Yeah, there's the wide shot, and you can see some significant weather going further south there as well. David went straight to it because it's closest to his house.
Yes, Sandy Cape, but I still reckon it's still got that curve which I haven't checked. The latest coordinates, St. Lawrence. But look at the wave band right down to
Yes.
Heron Island, Yeppoon, Gladstone. So she's impacting right down to Gladstone at this point in time.
Well, it was always
And up to-
it was always the eastern side and in extension the southern side that was the most expansive in this storm.
And nothing north of Hitchinbrook Island up to Innisfail. So Hitchinbrook, south of Innisfail, right down to Gladstone, Inland Charters Towers.
Let's take a look at the latest infrared loop here. Is that up to date? Let me just verify. This one certainly is up to date. There's the latest frames, and well, I'm not sure what to make of that last frame. Again, we've said it so many times, but the western side looking weak, but the inner eye wall appears to be sprouting up more convection again. The southwestern side just a little bit flat there, but it does have that inner eye wall, still looks almost intact, and the eye wall now you can see impacting the Airlie Beach area, though the latest data numbers suggesting that the storm's just 5 miles north of Airlie Beach, which would suggest that it is pretty much just 1 or 2 pixels north of that pink line that is the coastline, which is obviously not what's being denoted on this satellite image. But it would make more sense as to the wind speeds that we've been seeing on Hamilton Island, which have been, if you've not heard already, 96 knots sustained. That's 110 miles an hour. Gusting, earlier was gusting to 140 miles an hour, 140. That's around 220 kilometers per hour if I'm not mistaken. And sustained winds 110 miles per hour, 180 or so kilometers per hour. David?
Channel 9 is reporting monster waves
Yep.
now being recorded off the North Queensland coast. And 23,000 residents are without power between the Whitsundays and Mackay.
Yep. So that's the latest there.
And that's being
obviously-
reported.
Go ahead.
Go on. That's being reported by ABC News.
So can we get the... So just to get this evacuation thing straight, 120 people have been asked to evacuate, 25,000 people have. Is that right?
I looked at the Mackay local government website. The population, or there was a site, it's 120,000 population, and what was the figure? 25,000 have decided to depart.
Yes.
And Nathan, considering the farming area in the path of Debbie, it's now being reported that the damage bill from Debbie for farmers could hit 1 billion.
How many billion?
1.
Oh, just one. 1 billion in damages you were expecting, is that?
Yeah, I think that's to the sugarcane crop.
Yes.
This is what the farmers are saying. I'm just waiting for it to open up.
Well, whilst we're waiting for that, I believe we're now joined by Nelson, joining us from New Orleans.
Good evening, Nathan. Good morning, David. How are y'all today?
We're fine. We're snowed under by Cyclone Debbie, as I'm sure most of Queensland is.
Yeah, well, I've been following silently in the background for a while, so I thought I'd jump in with y'all and
Now
get
you
in on the
regretted it
fun.
last time, didn't you?
I did, but that was Inawo just wouldn't move, so it
Inawo
looks
wouldn't
like Debbie's
move.
eventually going to make a landfall during this stream.
Yeah, that's Inawa wouldn't move, and we had tornado warnings every 2 seconds. But we've not got quite so much activity going on the tornado front today, meaning we can devote much of our attention to Debbie. Though there isn't all that much to say apart from the updates every hour. Not too many reports of damages coming through yet, as you'd expect, but it will happen soon. We will probably get more reports from that soon. Of course, landfall hasn't yet happened, but those latest reports, we're still watching the latest observations from Hamilton Island. 96 knots sustained.
Well, and I would like to go back to the infrared imagery and why it shows it to be so far out, even though the Himawari is taking a picture every 10 minutes. We are not able to access it in real time. There is a bit of a delay, so that could explain the last frame of that image.
Yes, I did think of that, though it still, still doesn't make a huge amount of sense. It's not a delay so big as would have such a discrepancy. It is a little delay. Would have a small discrepancy, but not as big as the one we're currently looking at. Very curious. How strong do you think it is?
I mean, there are reports on the ground, as you said from the. I just lost it. I was looking
we
at
can't
it.
refute that it's 110 miles an hour, which is what Force 13 ran with at the beginning of the hour, but it could be more.
It could be more, but seeing the reports, I would expect more from Hamilton Island. Certainly, if we see them strengthen from this 96 knot speed, it would be quite informative of that. But I'd have to run with what the reports on the ground say.
Yeah, we'll be watching that very closely. The pressure there still 972, which is pretty high for 110 miles an hour, you'd say.
I would defer to you on that, Nathan.
Well, I'd think so. Not out of the question, but you'd have thought a storm of this size would have a much lower pressure than that if it's going to produce winds like that. It's quite a large storm. It's not tiny. It's moderately sized, really, isn't it? It's not a huge storm. It's not a very small spin-up thing, and they can intensify very quickly. For example, you talk about Hurricane Danny of 2015. You can understand why that was a Category 3 at 960 millibars, because it was so small. And then you get Sandy, 940 millibars as a Category 1, because it was so large. And the extratropical transition didn't help. But there we are. If you've not heard what the warnings are, let's reiterate what those latest warnings are for Queensland. There are no cyclone watches. They're all warnings from Lucinda all across the coast to St Lawrence. That includes Townsville, Ayr, Bowen, Hamilton Island, of course, and Airlie Beach and all that area that we're looking at right now. Mackay, Sarina and St Lawrence. Inland areas, Moranbah, Mount Coolon, Pentland, Charters Towers, Ingham, Collinsville and a few other locations along there as well. All under cyclone warnings. So, obviously, people should have prepared a long time ago. People are probably hunkering down if they haven't evacuated. 25,000 people apparently have. But, David, that was in Mackay alone, was it not? I think he's gone.
Yeah, I think he's taking the break. He's been on the long haul and probably could use a cup of tea right now.
If anyone's got any questions for us whilst we're on the air, please send us a message. Start your message with Force 13, all in text. Of course, this is still a Category 4 on the Australian scale, and I think it will hold that intensity until landfall, don't you?
Yeah, I see no reason for it to. It's had its land interaction with the outer bands and what we think are the outer maybe 1 to 3 eye walls. So I think we're going to be just fine.
I'm sure you're looking at that inner eye wall right now on the infrared, and could it be making a comeback?
Nathan,
Yes.
I would have to say that we've produced some very good videos for the channel, and this is a little off topic from the live stream, but it is with Cyclone Debbie. Jason put together a video of Debbie being flown over by the International Space Station, which has been well received by the fans in the community. Would you like to direct people to that, or do you have any comments on that?
Well, we can, but that was probably the biggest diversion ever from a question I've ever seen. Yeah, we could, of course, do that. It is on the channel.
Well, I do believe BuzzFeed Oz may have retweeted that video.
Oh, really? It's
Yes.
news on me. It's news on me, but that's very interesting.
I got to go check it and compare it, but I do believe that BuzzFeed Oz just retweeted that.
Wow. Fascinating. And if you've got any more questions for us, do let us know as the storm continues to churn towards landfall. Is it moving west? I've no idea.
Generally, yes, it is.
But it is just edging closer, and basically we're spending this hour running out of superlatives to tell you how slowly Debbie is moving. Chris Montgomery says, "Can I ask you a question, please?" Well, come out with it, and we'll see if we can answer it. Aaron Newitt says, "Any news on its wind speed at land?" Well, as we sort of mentioned, I don't think it will weaken very much. We're probably looking at wind speeds sustained of 100 miles per hour, 160 kilometers per hour at landfall at least. It could be higher than that. Category 4 conditions probably going to happen on some land areas. Already has happened on Hamilton Island, but we're talking about the mainland here. Yes, I think that will happen. And we think landfall is going to be, well, actually, the way it's been going in the last numbers update that we just got, just before the last hour, it was 5 miles off land. So if that trend continues, it had moved towards land at 8 miles an hour. So the math is pretty simple. It will have made landfall by the next hour if it keeps up that pace. Obviously, we'll let you know as soon as we know whether the storm has made landfall or not. But according to those numbers that we were running at the top of the hour, it was just 5 miles away, when in the previous update it was around 10 miles away.
Now, Nathan, we've got some more questions coming in from the chat. How far out do gale force winds extend from Cyclone Debbie?
Well, good question. We've been using the numbers from the Bureau of Meteorology. They're saying around 120 nautical miles in most directions. Between 100 and 120 nautical miles, which, how much would that be in kilometers? I'm trying to work that one out.
100. Oh.
Something like 220 kilometers or thereabouts. Between 200 and 250 kilometers in all directions. Coming out of the storm, that's gale force. So if we use those numbers now to estimate where on land, how far it extends to the west and to the south, you could say that gale force winds probably extend right now, quite far, using nautical miles. Well, actually, Townsville is 120 nautical miles from the storm, so Townsville could be experiencing, or local areas near Townsville could be experiencing it very shortly. Areas possibly even as far south as, where are we here? Not far from St. Lawrence, just north of St. Lawrence, could be receiving tropical storm force winds. Mackay, of course, and all points in between. So a large area could be receiving tropical storm force winds right now. Obviously, there's no weather. We don't have weather stations absolutely everywhere, or the Bureau of Meteorology don't. But we know what we know so far, and that's the big numbers there, particularly with Hamilton Island, which their next observation I think is due in just a few minutes.
With Hamilton Island, and go ahead while you're there, we've had a user in the chat, and I want to give him credit. Two-Man Algenik says that there were winds recorded of 179.6 kilometers per hour, gusting to 214.8 kilometers per hour at Arley Beach. I don't know if we've got a station there.
Arley Beach, yes, that is to be expected. That was no surprise really, but that's very interesting to know if it's true, because that really substantiates the numbers that we'll be giving out. That we've been quite baffled that the storm was only 5 miles from Arley Beach, but it sounds like it could be correct with those numbers. And if it's only 5 miles away from Arley Beach, then in turn it's therefore only how far away from Hamilton Island? Just 15 miles from Hamilton Island, and that makes sense because if you look at the satellites, you'd be forgiven for thinking it's 25 miles away, and that could make a big difference. And you wouldn't have thought you'd get 110-mile-an-hour winds 25 miles away from the centre. You'd have thought it'd be a bit closer, wouldn't you? If we believe the storm to be 110 miles an hour. So we were left with those two scenarios. Either one, the storm's further north and it's much stronger than we think, or two, and what is looking to be most likely, the storm is further south than the satellite says and the radar says, and is actually really close to making a landfall right now.
Well, hopefully David can confirm that.
Well, he didn't in the last 2 hours, so I don't think we've got much hope for that.
All right.
But I think I am definitely leaning towards that second scenario there. And as I say, we could see landfall at the next update. But we believe it's Category 2 right now. That's on the Saffir-Simpson scale. Got to make that clear all the time because, of course, there's two different scales. We're international, so we use the most known scale internationally. Category 4 on the Australian scale, however, we acknowledge. Let's see. Any other comments? What is the lowest pressure recorded in Cyclone Debbie throughout its cycle? Well, only estimates, but the lowest we've put it down at so far was 943, and that's when our live coverage started nearly 6 hours ago. And let's see. Just looking at some other comments. It appears that the storm's been stalling for a while now. Yes, it has. It's still moving. It's coasting, I'd say, at a very slow speed, and it's limping across the finish line, so to speak, to the landfall point. And then it will probably be gone in a few more days. 11:33 UTC is the current time. midnight here in the UK. And that would make it 7:30. Is that right? 7:30? No, later than that. 9:30 in Australia, in the East Coast. Question: do you think that Cyclone Debbie is a Category 1 or 2 with winds around 95 miles an hour? Well, that's an interesting question. No, we think it's stronger than that. We think it's around, as we've just said, 110 miles per hour, which is strong Category 2 on the Saffir-Simpson scale, just shy of Category 3. We had it at Category 3 until the recent hour that just came through, which had downgraded it just beyond that threshold to Category 2. Still a Stage 4 on the CDPS scale. I know that Devon, the inventor of the CDPS scale, was arguing with me earlier, not arguing, but pointing out that he reckons it was CDPS Stage 6, I believe, 5 or 6 earlier on. We had it at Stage 5 at one point, I believe, but we put it down to Stage 4 this evening, and it remains Stage 4 right now. The CDPS scale is a new feature that we've been implementing in 2017. It covers all cyclones worldwide. It's a 10-tiered scale, 1 to 10, which distinguishes how severe, how damaging, how much destruction a storm is likely to cause based on several different criteria. One day we're probably going to have a proper discussion about that on a live event, but that's not going to be tonight unless Devon arrives, and maybe he could tell you a bit more about that. But in the meantime, we don't have him here, so I think we'll move on. Nelson.
Well,
Yep.
Oh, well, thank you. As we do move on, I'll go back to that report of the wind speeds from Arley Beach. Those stations, and it's very important that you notice it, the station it took that wind speed from is Hamilton Beach.
Right.
And it
so
notes
identical.
26.9 miles away. Kilometers, I'm sorry, away.
Right, so I thought that was a bit fishy that they had exactly the same numbers.
Yeah, I was wondering about that myself, but it is the same,
Right.
the same station.
All right, thank you for that. That clears things up there. So we don't really know how strong the winds are over in Airlie Beach, but they could arguably be stronger than the winds on Hamilton Island. But I'm not sure, because apparently I think one or two people told us here that Hamilton Island is obviously pretty exposed, at being an island, of course, but it also matters where the actual weather station is, of course. For all we know, the weather station might be on top of the control tower at the airport there. But I'm not sure. Maybe someone could tell us. I believe next we've got a loop showing the first loop of Himawari 8 imagery to come through since visible imagery arrived. Here it is. It's a pretty short loop showing what the storm has done since day broke near the centre of the storm. And you can see the eye definitely there, the western side of the eye wall capitulating in a little bit, in part. Really struggling to sort itself out, but you would say there that it's done sort of a very tight corkscrew loop clockwise there. Nelson, I don't know if you've got access to the stream right now. Are you seeing that imagery?
I am not seeing my stream's slowed up, so I'm not seeing it in real time just at the moment. Okay, now it's up.
Yeah, I don't know what your impression of that is. Again, the outline there is the mainland of Australia. It does not show the Whitsunday Islands. So the storm's pretty much on top of those islands there, which are in a hidden outline underneath the storm's eye.
Yeah, I see that center of circulation. As you said, it is kind of a corpse there, but I would have to say that, it's certainly off the coast of mainland, but as you said before, that does not illustrate the eye.
And that last image was from 30 minutes ago, so the last image there is 30 minutes old.
And Airlie Beach is now being severely impacted on.
Yeah.
There's a broken fire hydrant being reported by Channel 7 Mackay. The strong winds are really taking place. Palm trees really just about out of the ground. Nathan,
Really?
I'm sending an image through to you. And my
Whilst we wait on
computer's
that,
being
oh my
a bit
goodness,
stubborn.
no, we've got some breaking news. Hamilton Island has just recorded wind speed sustained of 118 miles per hour, with wind gusts of 145 miles per hour, and a pressure of 967 millibars. So, ramping up
It's dropping.
in Hamilton Island. Category 3 conditions on the Saffir-Simpson scale right now, Category 4 conditions on the Australian scale being experienced at Hamilton Island, and Category 5 gusts. That's the latest.
So is Debbie heading for the high range Cat 4 or 5?
Well, that last observation there confirms that it's not a Category 2 on the Saffir-Simpson hurricane wind scale. It's Category 3 still, and could maybe even be slightly stronger than minimal Category 3. And as I was commenting earlier, I had suspicions about the inner eye wall, and is it coming back? I asked Nelson the question, is it coming back? He ignored me. David, what do you think?
I think it is.
It could be.
I was wondering whether it was closing in, but looking at the radar,
Do you have it?
no, my computer is giving me a bit of a hiccup at the present time, but
All right.
as soon as I
Oh, it certainly looks to be at least maintaining, if not its final heave as it pushes inland.
In just over 5 minutes, we're going to find out whether the latest data from real-time ATCF says that the storm has made landfall or not. That's going to be interesting. So we'll be able to tell you as soon as that happens if it has. That isn't official, however. The Bureau of Meteorology has the final say, and I'm sure David will keep you posted at the top of the next hour exactly what they're saying on the next update, which I believe is going to be a big update, so to speak. Not an hourly position update, but a 6-hour intensity and technical bulletin there, David.
now you got the radar.
Oh, one moment. We'll get that up on the screen. Hang tight there. There's the
That's
radar.
all right. Yeah, I'll bring it down to the 256 sleep.
And there it is. Looking better.
Yep.
So, David, what are your thoughts? What do you think it will do? Do you think, like, who is it, the governor or someone, think it will get to Category 5?
The Queensland Premier. The Queensland Premier in her morning brief to the media, they would be in the Queensland Government's Emergency Communications Centre here on the north side of Brisbane. They actually, it's their nerve centre.
So
The
the response is being coordinated from Brisbane.
Oh yes, yes.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
latest
see?
infrared imagery is showing that the eye has deepened substantially, and it's probably going to be at least Category 3, obviously backed up by observations, but this could be on the cusp of Category 5 Australian scale, looking at latest imagery, David.
Well, the Queensland government would be in regular contact with the Tropical Warning Centre here in Brisbane, and the information that the Bureau would be giving the government would be lending support to a Cat 5 situation, and the government would also be getting information from other weather experts outside the Bureau. So they would have many sources that they would be getting information from, and naturally they would be getting on the ground information. Say a high range Cat 4, which I've been saying for the last few days. So, but the eye, Nathan, as you said, it's still there. It's clearly visible.
It's more clearly visible now than before.
But
wait till you see some of the infrared imagery that's going to be coming out in the next hour. The eye is deepening substantially in the last 30 minutes to an hour, and that's very important.
and I'll be waiting for the next round of updates re-flood. I would be surprised to see the Bureau reissue its severe weather warning. There is no severe weather warning current.
Really?
They only had one for damaging winds, but as this is a developing picture, when you look at the rain bands, I'm going to indicate my position that we will see additional warnings issued by the Bureau, including a updated flood, and severe weather warning. And we could also see one for coastal region. I'm thinking about the surf. But Nelson, I would be interested if you've got any ship observation reports.
Somehow I knew you were going to ask that, David.
Well, I've been asking the same question for the last 3 days. I'm probably going to drive you mad with the questioning, but
Probably.
as this is inside the Great Barrier Reef, we'll probably have to look at shipping possibly to the north-south within the Great Barrier Reef region.
Oh, well, I've just checked on one database that doesn't indicate any ships of significant size in the area, and why would you want to be at this time? It would seem foolish to send a ship through the middle of a storm like this, and while I know there are some ocean-going vessels that can do it, it's a risk that I think few people want to take.
This will be the commercial shipping, but we'll go to another Bureau's site and see what's happening up on the high seas page, whether there's any ocean wind warnings.
It's not so much the high seas anymore, is it?
No, it's definitely land and inside the Great Barrier Reef. And how much damage is Debbie going to do to the...
well, that's the big question now,
reef.
isn't it, really? All the... Well, for the whole land area, the preparation should be complete. The people have done everything they can at this point to prepare for the storm. The evacuations have taken place. People are either hunkering down or sheltered. And we wait for the passage of the storm, and then the cleanup, of course, and we assess how much damage the storm has done, and hopefully Australia keeps its good track record of very few fatalities in storms like these.
Yes, and Nathan, getting back to your time conversion to the Australian time conversion, here's this advisory from the Tropical Cyclone Warning Centre here in Brisbane, issued at 18:02 UTC. So how many hours ago would that be?
Sorry, what was that? I wasn't listening.
I know.
Honesty there.
Concentrating
That is true.
on
we do 10 things at once here. Do say that again.
Yes. Okay. 18:02 UTC. How many hours ago?
That was nearly 7 hours ago.
Okay. Now they're reporting central pressure to drop to 946.
Yes, I did notice that, and I thought that was interesting, but that was as of just over 6 hours ago.
And their location was 19.8 south, 149.2 west-southwest at 6 knots, 95 knots maximum speed winds, central pressure, as we just said, 946, within 120 nautical miles in the northeast quadrant, within 120 nautical miles southeast quadrant, 100 nautical miles southwest, 100 nautical miles in the northwest quadrant, maximum winds to 95 knots near the centre, winds above 64 knots within 40 nautical miles to centre with phenomenal seas, and winds above 48 knots within 60 nautical miles to centre with high seas and heavy swell. And they are still requesting then at 0600 UTC, today's date, within 40 nautical miles to 20.2 south, 147.8 east, overland, central pressure 967.
967. Where did you get that from? That's what was measured on the island. I forgot the name. Hamilton Island.
That's the advisory from the sorry guys, the Tropical Warning Centre here in Brisbane. This is at 06 UTC. Central pressure 967, but weakening up to 994 at 18
Right.
UTC.
So soon. That's pretty quick weakening.
And central pressure, 994, so I'll still say a tropical low.
Yeah. Of course, we'll have the latest on Debbie at the start of the next hour. New information is about to arrive, and hopefully we'll have it at the top of the hour for you. If you've got any more questions or comments for us, start your message with Force 13, all in text. We're going to be running through for at least another hour. But if we listen to those numbers that we received, David, do you think we'll be having a landfall at the start of the next hour?
No.
No?
No, because the Queensland Premier said midday.
Not infallible,
So,
though.
well, unless it picks up speed, then we have an earlier landfall.
But but again, it's this numbers thing. The numbers are saying that the storm is 5 miles away from landfall an hour ago. The satellite's showing that, with a little bit of delay, only half an hour, that the storm is quite a way off landfall by the looks of it. Radar is not very forthcoming either.
No, it's not. And I think it's about a 10-minute delay on the radar.
What exactly is the truth? Where is the centre of the storm? But
to the northeast of Hayman Island.
Well, that's what you'd have thought, looking at some of the visuals. All that we do know is that Hamilton Island recently, if you missed it, received sustained winds of 191 kilometers per hour, 118 miles per hour, gusting to 232 kilometers per hour, 145 miles per hour, with a pressure of 967. Remarkable numbers out of that, meaning that the storm is definitely Category 3.
And deepening.
Possibly. Was deepening during this hour. Will it deepen again in the next hour?
And stay tuned for that answer.
Well, I'm sure. But, we're as in the dark as anyone else here as to what the storm's going to do next.
But as I mentioned earlier in this broadcast, I do not like hourly updates.
From the Bureau of Meteorology.
Yep.
You didn't quite explain why.
Well, it only came about because of the complaining from Campbell Newman, who was
Really?
a former Premier of Queensland. He really went to town on the Bureau of Meteorology. I think the federal government might have, Campbell might have got the ear of the government, and perhaps a directive was sent down to the Bureau, update every hour. because of subsequent damage, the lack of reporting on a previous tropical cyclone up there, tropical north central coastal region of Queensland. And Nathan,
David,
go Nelson.
I've got a quick question for you from the live chat from Stephen Shaw. Does the Bureau classify an official landfall as when the center of the eye crosses the coastline, or is it just the eye itself?
Good question.
Or the
Good
lead edge
question,
of the eye or
Stephen.
the full eye?
I think it would have to be the full eye, or once the eye's actually on land. Perhaps
It seems to be trendy and fashionable today to these days to do it for the edge of the eye. You can say that the edge of the eye has made landfall, but the centre of the storm, I think maybe people are being a bit lazy because they can't quite. When you look at an eye, you can't quite determine where the exact centre of the eye is, so they just call it a landfall when the edge of the eye moves over land. I think that explains it.
Well, I would...
Didn't answer the question, though. We don't know. Go ahead.
But stay tuned, Stephen. I'll see what information can be obtained. But I remember when I was a teenager, and I remember when I actually...
one of these stories.
Drove
I'm
around
sorry,
the
everybody. I'm apologizing in the chat.
But you don't know what I'm going to say, do you?
Oh, I have a
Anyway.
feeling
Do
you'll
hurry.
take... Yeah, we're about to hit
Yes,
the
I
hour.
know.
David.
You're about to cut me off.
Yes.
Haven't been...
I'll have to
Okay.
get you to do it on the other
I have-
side. Come on.
I have driven around the local area in the eye. Then I drove. Then after it passed, I went back out, and it was sort of damaged. But that's only once in my lifetime.
All right. Well, thanks for that, and we'll be back with more coverage on Cyclone Debbie at the top of the hour. Stay tuned. This is Force 13 Live. More news to come. Our live coverage continues in a moment. You can follow Force 13's outlets, the website force13.com, at your service at any time with the latest storm updates. You can also find us on YouTube if you're not watching us there already, and subscribe if you've not done so. You can also find us on Facebook, search Force 13 all in text, and it's at Force 13 on Twitter if you'd like to get in touch on those mediums. You can also add Fool 13 on Skype and add extension 9094 on Discord for tropical weather chat. You're watching Force 13's live streaming service.